Is it asking for permission again?
Nope. I think it's recording now.
Cool. All right. So I guess ladies first, what motivated you to return to school?
I always knew I was going to go back for my BSN. When I started nursing, I was like, why am I going to waste time going through the BSN program when I could just get my associates and I can start working the same job as everybody else?
Mm-hmm.
And then I could wait. My goal was to find a hospital that would pay for me to go back to school. So that's kind of what I did. Because I know eventually I'm going to want to move or change jobs. And without that BSN, it's going to be impossible.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. So what motivated you?
Um, Kind of similar to you. Whenever I got mine, I have prior schooling. I had been to school for my BSN prior to this, but just couldn't afford to continue. So I
Mm-hmm.
ended up doing a bunch of odd and end jobs, and finally I went back and I found ECPI's ADN program, and I ended up doing their ADN with the intent of going back and getting my BSN. But similar to you, it's like, why waste 4 years when I can get it done in a year and a half to two and get started and actually get experience, and then I can work in the BSN as I want to. So that's, yeah, kind of similar with yours. I just wanted to um, get it done and over with so I could start working. And then I figured going back and doing this, I could do it while I was working. So yeah.
What was
Plus
your
my,
previous schooling in?
what's that?
What was your previous BSN in? Or not BSN, your bachelor's?
I actually didn't have a bachelor's. I went to a school prior to ECPI for my BSN. I was at a state
Oh,
school,
okay.
and I just couldn't afford it, and it was super expensive. And I was like, so I left and did a bunch of odd and end stuff up until I moved, because I'm from Pennsylvania originally. So I moved
Oh,
down to South Carolina, and the ECPI here, I'm in Charleston. Were just starting up their ADN nursing program, and I was part of the first cohort to graduate from there. So I was part of the first cohort, and then I had to take a leave for um, 15 weeks, and then or 10 weeks or something, and then I went back and I graduated with the second cohort. So um, yeah, so I ended up just going back and doing it that way. But had a bunch of the like gen ed classes from my first college. So I was
mhm.
like, I've already got all this stuff. Just need to go back and do the actual nursing part of the BSN. So
It's kind of funny when, like, I'm like a charge nurse there,
mm,
and I'm like this little girl who's went to community college. I only have an associate's degree, and I'm a charge nurse. So we're people who have like 20 years experience
mm,
or like going for their masters, and I'm like, I'm glad I chose the route I did.
mm-hmm.
It felt bad at first because you're like, oh, everyone's got their BSN, and I'm like, no, we're just the same, working the same job, the same position for
Yeah,
less. Like I paid less, and we're doing the same thing. I feel
yeah,
good about it.
yeah. I was gonna say I'm the same way. I mean, so how long have you been nursing?
2 years.
Okay, same here. 2 years. It was 2 years in July is when I was hired at my hospital, and I've been in charge since 6 months after I was hired. I mean, so I do charge almost regularly, and I work up until starting back to school here. I worked Thursday through Sunday, so I worked 4 12s in a row, and I
Oh,
would usually be in charge all weekend. Um, so yeah, I mean, same exact. I mean, paid a lot less for my degree, and ended
mhm.
up and still get paid the same amount as they do. So it's, yeah, I agree. I'm glad I picked the route that I did.
You do 4 12s in a row?
That up until just starting back to school. I mean, I did Friday, Saturday. I do Friday, Saturday, Sunday now. I'm a weekend only.
Okay.
But yeah, whenever I was hired, I said, well, I'll be looking to pick up overtime pretty much weekly. And they were like, well, you just want to be scheduled. And that way, you know what your schedule is.
Yeah.
And you can pick either Thursday or Monday. And I was like, cool, Thursday. I'll do Thursday through Sunday and have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. And I can do my thing that way. So
Right. Then I guess you can kind of flip back to being a regular person.
Yeah, yeah. Just the Mondays are a little off. Tuesdays are
Mhm.
my good days. Wednesdays are good days, and then Thursday I kind of have my mornings. I nap, and then I would usually go to work after a nap. So it yeah, I've definitely worked, and that's been the whole 2 years that I've been there. So definitely got a little exhausting. So it's nice to have only 3 days, but now I spend the other four taking doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
But so what are you expecting from this program? What do you expect to learn um, different than what you already do in your job?
I haven't honestly looked into like the forward classes. I just kind of signed up and I'm like, okay, whatever gets thrown at me, I'm gonna do it because I gotta finish it. So even like getting through the like gen ed courses, I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I taking a Microsoft class? When am I gonna use this? So hopefully now that we're in the actual nursing part, it's a little more relatable and usable. I
Yeah, yeah, kind of similar on. I mean, I looked at that question. I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know since I've been. I mean, it almost feels like that question was built towards somebody that is like finished their ADN and jumped right into this and is hoping to learn something more. But after having 2 years of experience, I'm like, I don't
yeah,
know. Maybe a little bit more on how nursing research works. I mean, but I don't know since I mean I do the same job as my BSN like coworkers. I don't know what I'm not sure what I'm expecting to learn. I'm hopeful that something is new and I can learn something from it.
I
So
hope to, like improve on my foundation.
mm,
I feel when I'm working, like I know what I'm doing, but sometimes it's like, why am I doing it? Or how can I explain to a patient like why we're doing something? And
mm,
I think that's where I'm lacking the most. Because with an associate's course, it feels like we just breeze through it really fast.
mm.
And now I kind of want to build upon that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's so I work cardiac, so and our manager is huge on the teaching aspect of everything. I mean, because we're like our unit takes care of like heart attacks, so MIs, like current
Mhm.
MIs and like CHF patients. I mean, but we can also be a med surge overflow, so we get like stroke patients and I mean, pretty much everything. So, especially with our stroke and our CHF patients, we're constantly teaching, and that we have like a laundry list of things that we have to teach and why we're doing certain things. So, like the teaching part of it is something that my manager and my unit they stay on us about it because CHF and things like that,
Yeah.
they're huge for readmissions, and readmissions hurt the hospital and all of that. So they keep on us about the teaching. And so I mean I would like to learn a little bit more on how to maybe get through to certain like people that are non-compliant. I don't
Hmm.
know, because that's a huge thing in where I work is the non-compliance with meds, non-compliance with diet, not and maybe strategies of how to get through to people that are non-compliant. Maybe I can learn a little something on that because it gets a little it's I don't know, irritating,
Yeah.
stressful
Frustrating.
dealing, yeah, frustrating dealing with people that just you see them almost weekly or bi-weekly because they come in, they get taken care of, and then they go back and go right back to what they're doing. So it gets frustrating, but I mean I guess that's what's keeping me in a job. So
Right. At least being cardiac, it's a little more specialized. So you're kind
mm,
of seeing the same things in and out each day. I
yeah.
work intermediate critical care. So I just
mm,
get everything. It's like now they're
Gotcha.
throwing DKA at us. I CHFers all the time,
Mm-hmm.
do the cardiac cath. I think there's like too much coming at me that I can't really get deep into education with patients. Because
Gotcha.
my understanding is only at like a certain level because I gotta know a lot.
Yeah. So you know a little about a lot of things, but
Yeah.
not a lot about the yeah. So I get that. Yeah. So where do you want to go with this? Do you want to stay bedside? Do you want to after like you get your BSN? Do you plan on getting further into things?
Well, it's funny. I just got like an orientee, so I'm precepting now.
Mm,
And he asked me that. He's like, what are your plans? I know you're in school. And I'm like, I'm in school just to keep being bedside. I love bedside.
okay.
I don't want to go into management. Specifically, like units to work in, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I love where I'm at, but I don't think I'm going to be here forever. Like, I've
Mm,
always wanted to go down to like the emergency department. Everyone's kind of pushing me to go into the actual critical care unit. I'm like,
mm.
I love it when my patients can talk back to me and like they can be sassy and I can be sassy back. Like,
Yeah.
I love that. I love the banter with patients.
Yeah, that's the I do enjoy that at times, and then there's times where I'm like, stop talking. Like I don't know. But I do like the interaction because the ICU, even though like so for me, I'm not sure if I want to go DNP or if I want to go CRNA. I'm still kind of
Hmm.
deciding on which one I want to do. But with if I want to do CRNA, I have to go ICU and be
Yeah.
ICU for 2 years. So it's like, I mean, I like the criticalness of it, but I feel like I'm so used to. So my unit is very actually similar to what you were saying. Yours is it's a step down. It's
Hmm.
an intermediate care. Just it's more heavily cardiac, but we still get basically anybody that doesn't need to be in the ICU that needs to be on drips or on anything, they come to us. Or if they're on a med surg unit and they have to be put on a drip, they get sent to us. So we get that's why I was saying we're kind of like a med surg overflow / intermediate care for basically anything. So yeah, very similar to what you deal with. We get DKAs on endo tool constantly, and it's so I mean I'm so used to having 5 of those patients on night shift and running around like crazy. So having like 1 or 2 patients in the ICU, I'm like, I feel like I'd be bored.
Yeah.
I don't know because I see ICU nurses because they can every once in a while they need to float down to us, and when they get down to us and they have 3 or 4 patients, they look like a chicken with their head cut off because
Right. You're
they're
struggling.
like they don't know what to do. They're like, this is crazy, and then I'm like, yeah, night shift we got 5 of them and you've got 3 on day shift, so like I'm like I don't know, I feel like I'd be sitting up there bored out of my mind unless I have like super critical patients where I'm like constantly in there. I don't know, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm still making up my mind. I do want to specialize somewhere. I just don't know if I want to do DMP or if I want to do CRNA. um but I figure by the time I'm done with this program or the BSN part, I'll maybe have a little more clarity on where I want to go.
Hmm.
So
So with the DMP, if that was the route you chose, where would you go?
I love cardiac. So I would probably stick with cardiac. I definitely know I don't want to do anything like oncology or nephrology. As much as nephrology and cardiac play in, and I deal with a lot of nephrology patients, like just AKI, CKD patients.
Hmm.
I don't I couldn't just do that. I like being in collaboration with them I could do, but I'd much rather stick with the cardiac. I like the I don't know, it's just that's what interests me. So I'd probably look at staying cardiac if I did.
Well, it's good you found your niche.
Yeah. Um so you said you want to stay bedside and but you'd rather go to the ER is what you were saying?
I think maybe eventually just doing a rotation through there because I started in a residency program.
Oh,
So the
okay.
whole point of the program was you get to go to different units to really
Hmm.
experience what you want so that you stay on board with this facility.
Yeah.
But after my second rotation, I'm like, I don't like dealing with the residency people. I just wanted to get tired. I wanted to work all the overtime I can, make that money.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean, I love where I work now, but like I feel like I didn't get that experience that I could have.
Gotcha. Yeah, we have a similar program. Like we have our nurse residency at our hospital that all new hires have to go through, or all new nurses have to go through, whether you're hired directly to a floor or whether you get put in what's called pipeline, which is kind of what you were saying, you kind of get rotated through. And those ones they usually do, if you're pipeline, you go 6 weeks one spot, then you go to 6 weeks at another spot, and then I think you can do up to 3 6-week rotations. And then if you haven't been, like, if none of the floors you've been to, or you haven't been like brought in by a floor, then it can then you go into like our motor resource pool, so you basically are a float. But I got hired directly onto this unit, so I didn't get to float around. But you don't get the ER experience with that. You get like mostly med surge. So you don't get ICU, you don't get ER, you get floated around to the kind of med surge floors that nobody really likes to go to. And then we get a couple on our floors.
Like, we were one of the first cohorts for Virginia to do it. The North Carolina group has been doing it forever, so they can go to every unit. But now that we're kind of getting used to the residency program, they're now allowing the new nurses in like CCU and down in the ED and even mother baby, L&D and all that.
Oh, wow.
Which they weren't offering any of that to me. So
yeah. So you got the junky med surge floors too.
Oh yeah, no, I started in med surge. Going back.
So my unit, my unit's probably one of the best units to work on in our hospital, just because the management team, like my head manager, the assistant manager, and our scheduling manager are phenomenal. Like, that's honestly, that's one of the major reasons that I haven't like went and did like the resource pool, because you can make more money being the float pool, but the scheduling, it's a little more strict versus our management. Like, they're super flexible. If you like last minute need some time off, they're like, yeah, take it, because we're always overstaffed. Like, they're constantly hiring people and making sure that we stay full for staff. And we end up floating a lot around the hospital. As like we take turns. I mean, we have our dates, and as they take turns floating us per shift. So I mean, I float to med surge constantly. I float to rehab. Basically, I float everywhere except for ICU and ER. So I mean, we kind of joke as our like as a group, we're like, well, we're the actual float pool for the hospital, and then the float pool is kind of just like, we'll just go everywhere else. So we quite often fill the unit, or help staff the other units in our hospital. So yeah, I get my fair share.
Nice word.
That
overstaffed. I was like, I haven't heard that word in a while. Must be nice.
Yeah, I mean, and really, we're the only floor that is like I said, we're constantly. It's nice to a point, because we're so they can offer on call to people. So say like you're just not feeling it for the weekend, and you're like, I'd rather be off this weekend. And if they're super overstaffed, they're like, yeah, okay, you can have it off. Or prior to the shift, we can offer on call or just PTO. So like offer somebody off if the staffing allows for it. So we do have that flexibility, as long as the rest of the hospital is staffed. Because like I said, if we have the extra staff, usually we're one of the first ones that get floated to the gen med floors and rehab and everywhere else to fill the needs. And then once those needs are filled, then we get to offer anybody off if they want. So yeah.
But I am pretty jealous. That sounds nice though.
So on your floor, you work night shift. What kind of ratios do you guys have?
We are 4 to 1 on good days. When we're short, we can go up to 5.
Okay.
And then if we're taking like critical care patients, like a DKA would consider us critical care, we only get 3.
Man, I'm jealous of that. Like we get on night shift. It's not, if we don't get to staff up unless we're all 5 to 1. Like, and that's both sides of our floor, because our floor is split. We're a split cardiac, but we all get the same things. We can take a total of 46 patients for the
Oh,
floor.
wow.
21 beds on the one side and 25 beds on the side that I work on. So we end up we don't get to staff up unless all the nurses that are there have 5 patients, and then they post us another one, then we can staff up. So we're constantly 5 to 1, unless we're like the census is down and we can, but then we're admitting patients. So I mean, yeah, we run 5 to 1 constantly, and we with DKA patients, people coming down from the ICU that are still on like milrinone and dopamine, dobutamine, all those things. We still get 5 to 1. We're dealing
Really?
with, yeah, we're dealing with changing insulin drips every 15 minutes to a half hour, plus dealing with 4 other patients. It's a little insane, and
Mm-hmm.
we've been trying like crazy to try and get our ratios down, especially since we're so well staffed. You would
Right.
think that our manager would be like, hey, yeah, go ahead, staff up, like we have the capability of doing that. But they keep saying, oh, acuity doesn't call for it. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're taking DKA patients, we're taking like basically critical care patients
Mm-hmm.
that just don't need the critical care, the 1-to-1 or the 1-to-2. But 5 to 1 with those patients is not safe, and they're saying it's red tape, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I'm a little jealous of the 3 to 1 or even the 4 to 1 ratio. A 4 to 1 ratio would be so much better on our unit. The 5 to 1, and like when I'm charge still gets 5 to 1. We
Yeah.
don't have a floating charge. We don't have, some of the units get to run with floating charges. I'm like, they're not even near as critical as we are, and they get to run
Loading
either
charge, like out of staffing, or?
pretty much, yeah. You don't take care of a patient, but your job is to like assist with everybody else. So if somebody's bogging behind helping pass meds, or I mean, I don't know what all they have them do, but then there's like little like sub duties, like stocking all of the stuff in the nurses station. Like, I mean, there's little odd and end jobs that you have to do, but then you still have to do all the staffing stuff and all of the safety huddles
Mm-hmm.
and do all that. But you don't, yeah, you just don't have to take care of patients. You're basically afloat around to help everybody else, answer call bells and assist with things that the techs might not be able to help with. So we every once in a while we get like when we have orientees on night shift, we if the orientee's with the one that's put in charge, it kind of helps, like then you can kind of float around as a like a floating charge, but you still got to kind of course make sure that your orientee's doing all right. But that's the only time we really get that kind of situation. Otherwise, it's 5 to 1. And you still end up sometimes with those critical patients. So yeah, I'm a little jealous of your even 4 to 1 ratio. That's nice.
4 to 1 is our normal.
uh
So
I
yeah, I
wish.
can't imagine.
So well, I think we've both answered. Oh, we didn't answer it on here, but I
With Zoom.
definitely don't have any experience with Zoom, as we determined earlier before we started recording this, and we finally got it done. But I know that, yeah, this is like my first time really messing with Zoom. Other than every once in a while, little like whenever COVID started, my coworkers and I, we'd do Zoom happy hour, and we would just meet up on here and since we couldn't go out and hang out with each other, we just video chat with each other and have a drink and just BS on here. But yeah, that's about it. I never really like mess with the recordings and stuff. So
No, I've only used it to watch the lessons each week. That's
mm.
it. I never even had to make an account before.
Oh, really? Yeah, yeah. This was my first, or I made the account for like my personal use.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, that was like I think I've only ever used it like once or twice, and it was just like, hey, drop in. So yeah, but well, I don't know. I think that's about it.
I think
Are
we
you,
covered it all.
yeah, are you, so how are you taking, is this the only class that you're taking this term?
Yeah.
Lucky.
You take more?
I have to take the capstone, the arts and science
Oh.
capstone. So
Mhm.
this on top of the arts and science capstone is kicking my butt. It's a lot of work to try and cram into a week. Each one, I mean, each of the classes are really a lot of work to do. So I'm trying to get through this. Hopefully, if I can survive this one, then this is the only one I have two classes. So if I can survive this 5 week class, I hope I should be good after this.
Yeah, I've only always done just one 5-week class at a time.
Yeah, and that's what I was hoping for, but the way that it all worked out, the only way that I could start with this cohort was I did communications last term, and then I started the BSN program technically with this class, and then I don't have to take Patho because I have it transferred from that original college that I went to. So I'm taking my only other arts and science class, which is I like health informatics or something like that.
Mhm.
I forget whichever that one was. That's the other arts and science class I have to do. So I'll do that when everybody else is doing Patho.
Okay.
So it ended up working out that this is the only term I have to do multiple classes, but like I said, both classes are very heavy coursework, as in like just a lot of writing. So it's surviving this next 5 weeks will be a test, but hopefully I'll get through this and then everything will be smooth after that.
I mean, the capstone is literally just writing, so you don't have to worry about researching and looking things up.
the
It's a lot of writing though.
which one,
Arts and science capstone.
the capstone?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, who did you, I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna
And
stop my recording. Yeah. And then we'll chat. All right, cool.